Heartwarming encounter. Broke mechanic discovers amazing connection with CEO's paralyzed daughter. Jake, the kind-hearted mechanic from Maplewood, never expected a simple winter day could change his life. The snow whipped around him like tiny stars, falling soft and white on the quiet streets where every face was familiar. But then he spotted a shiny, luxurious car that looked out of place by the side of the road, its sleek exterior glimmering even in the gray light of the sky. He felt an unusual pull, a tug in his chest, as if destiny had marked this moment just for him. As he approached, he opened the passenger door to find Emma, the paralyzed daughter of the town's richest CEO, slumped against the seat. Frustration radiated from her, her breath visible in the freezing winter air. She looked like a bird caught in a gilded cage, furrowing her brow as she stared out at the bleak landscape. In that instant, Jake felt the weight of her world, the burden of expectations pressing heavily on her shoulders. "Need a hand?" he asked, his voice releasing warmth in the frigid air. Emma turned, surprise flickering in her eyes as she took in this rough around-the-edges man with a heart bigger than life itself. Something deep within her cracked. Jake's genuine concern sparkled brighter than the stars drifting in the daylight sky. "You really think you can help?" she responded, vulnerability woven into her words. Her voice wavered, and Jake could see the fear behind her bravado. And just like that, the ice began to melt between them as they struck up a conversation. She shared stories of her dreams, once vibrant and full of color before the accident turned her life into monotone shades of gray. Jake poured his heart into listening, sharing his own struggles with bills and long hours at the shop. But he never shied away from speaking of hope, the thrill of breathing new life into old engines, the joy of belonging to a community. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you could drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As winter wore on, Jake and Emma spent late nights together in his shop, restoring a classic car he intended to surprise her with. But attitudes from those around them twisted like the gears in an old engine. Jake's friends scoffed at the rich girl, unable to see beyond her family's wealth. Meanwhile, Emma faced her father's icy disapproval, who warned her of associating with the lower class. Miscommunication crept in. Words unspoken grew into walls they couldn't see over. One evening, everything came crashing down. An unexpected community gathering brought together gossip and whispers, with Jake at the center of it all. As he felt eyes piercing through him, his insecurities bubbled to the surface. He was reminded of his poverty, while Emma battled the reality of her father's judgmental glare. Hurtful words cut deeper than they realized, straining their fragile connection. Now, lost in their separate pains, they couldn't shake the truth that pulled at them, the meaning of love, acceptance, and whether they could truly bridge their worlds. Just when they seemed destined to drift apart, an unforeseen emergency would reel them back to each other, shattering their walls and igniting a reckoning that would redefine everything they thought they knew. Would they find their way back? Only time would tell. The heavy winter clouds hung low in the sky, casting a grayish hue over Maplewood. Inside Jake's modest shop, the silence felt oppressive. The hum of machines usually filled the space with comfort, but now it was replaced by a nagging emptiness that echoed the distance growing between him and Emma. The classic car, once a symbol of hope, sat half-finished, a physical reminder of their shared dreams now slipping away. Jake leaned against the workbench, wiping grease on his worn jeans as he squinted at the disassembled engine. His mind wandered to Emma's laughter nestled in his memory. It felt like yesterday when they would share jokes over coffee or swap dreams for the future under the flickering lights. But things had changed. Her father's disapproval loomed like a storm cloud, pushing Emma back into her world of wealth and isolation. Each passing day felt longer, every minute carved with uncertainty. In the depths of her plush home, Emma stared out the window, her mind racing. She could hear her father's disapproving voice echoing in her head. You can't trust people who don't understand your world. The world he expected her to embrace felt foreign and cold, much like the winter landscape outside. It made her feel trapped again. Snow covered the earth, but her heart felt barren. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, snapping her from her thoughts. A message from Jake flashed on the screen, simple yet profound. Meet me at the shop? Her heart raced, a flicker of hope igniting within her. They'd been distant, caught in a cycle of unspoken words and misunderstandings. But that brief message was enough to pull her back to him. She didn't want to lose what they had. She couldn't. The wheels of her chair rolled softly across the polished wood floor as she made her way to the shop, her determination strengthening with each turn of the wheel. Was she ready to face not just him, but everything that lay between them? As she arrived, the faint sound of tools clinking together filled the air. The shop, dimly lit, held the warmth of Jake's spirit, a stark contrast to the chill encasing her heart. He looked up from the engine as she entered, his expression shifting from surprise to a look filled with warmth she longed for. Hey, he said softly, standing up straight and wiping his hands on a rag, the gesture making her feel welcome, loved even. Hey, she replied, her voice steady as she wheeled closer. The space between them flickered with something unsaid, a swirl of emotions like the snow outside. There was a moment of silence, the kind that could only be filled with the weight of everything left unspoken. I miss us, Jake broke the tension, his voice a mix of vulnerability and longing. I miss talking, laughing, everything, but it feels like we're stuck in the middle of two worlds. His honesty hit her hard. She felt tears prickling at her eyes, melting the coldness that had settled in her heart. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. My dad, he doesn't understand, but it's you I want. Jake stepped closer, the intensity in his gaze igniting a warmth that spread through her. They stood together in that moment, a fragile bridge forming, hesitant but filled with possibility. But just as hope began to swell within them, the shop door swung open with a loud bang, interrupting their moment. Both turned, startled, as Emma's father stormed in, his face thunderous. What is going on here? He demanded, eyes narrowing at Jake. Everything stilled. Could this be the moment that broke them apart? Or would the truth pull them closer together? Emma's heart sank as her father's figure loomed in the doorway, his shadow swallowing the small sanctuary she and Jake had created in the shop. The confrontation buzzed in the air, each unspoken word heavy with tension. What are you doing here, Emma? Her father barked, his tone sharper than the winter chill outside. You shouldn't be with him. This doesn't concern you. Jake's stance shifted slightly. He stood taller, taking on the weight of the moment. Mr. Collins, it's not just about us, he said, his voice steady despite the fear flickering in his eyes. We care about each other, and I would never disrespect your daughter. Emma could feel anger mixing with her desperation. Dad, please. You don't get it. You make it impossible for me to breathe. She moved closer to Jake, seeking comfort in his presence. I want to make my own choices. I want this. Your choices? Choosing a mechanic who doesn't know the first thing about your life? Her father scoffed, dismissing Jake with a flick of his wrist. The contempt in his expression stung like cold wind against her cheeks. You think he can provide for you, Emma? You don't belong here. Silence bubbled in the shop, its warmth overshadowed by her father's icy demeanor. Jake glanced at her for reassurance, his eyes softening. He was trying to bridge the gap between Emma's world and his, but her father stood as a barricade. Mr. Collins, Jake began, but Emma interrupted him with a firmness she didn't know she had. No, let me speak, she said, turning back to her father. Your idea of my life doesn't include love or passion. It's cold and calculated, and I want to live like that. Not anymore. Her father's clenched jaw revealed the battle raging within him. You know it's for your own good, he said, though his voice wobbled slightly. Emma shook her head, her eyes shining with determination. It's my life, and I need to choose it for myself. You can't dictate my feelings. Not anymore. The air thickened as her words settled between them. A haunting silence left in their wake. Jake stood by, his heart racing as he processed her strength. He wanted to reach for her, to reaffirm their bond, but he hesitated, sensing that this was her fight. Emma, this isn't how you're supposed to live, her father pleaded, now softening, the steam of anger dissipating. But this is how I want to live, Emma said, her voice steady, a contrast to the storm swirling inside her. You need to understand that I can't keep pretending everything is fine. I want in my life. I want this car, our dreams, I want us. The tug of her emotions was palpable. The tug-of-war between her family's expectations and her longing for freedom exploded in that moment, the truth ringing clear. Jake took a risk then. Stepping forward, he placed a gentle hand on Emma's shoulder, ground zero for the vulnerability and power they both felt. I want to support her, he said quietly, locking eyes with Mr. Collins, but I can't do it without your approval. At those words, the air thickened again, concern and disbelief battling in her father's gaze. Do you really think you can bring her happiness? He asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. It's not about only happiness, Jake replied, his voice steady. It's about understanding, respect, love. I want to fight for her. Emma's heart thundered in her chest. Her father's reaction would determine everything. Would he finally let her be free, or would he shatter this fragile moment of hope? As Emma waited, the world felt suspended, each second stretching into eternity. She held her breath, just as a gust of wind rattled the glass in the windows, as if nature itself awaited her father's answer. In that charged silence, Jake's hand remained on her shoulder, a beacon of strength, while uncertainty twisted in her gut. Would this be the moment of reckoning or the end of the dreams they had begun to stitch together? The pause felt endless, like a drawn-out scene in a movie, where the audience leans forward, waiting for the pivotal moment to unfold. Emma's gaze fixed on her father, seeing his features soften, maybe even crack under the weight of her words. Finally, he took a step back, uncertainty clouding his eyes. Emma, this isn't just about you. You need a life that's secure. Things may be different from what you think you want, but that's the point, Dad. Emma's voice rose, emotions spilling over. What is security when it comes at the cost of my happiness? I want to live a life dictated by your rules. Not anymore. Jake tightened his grip on her shoulder, feeling her tension. He could see the pain of her struggle, and it sent a jolt through him. He wished he could take this burden from her, make everything right with a simple touch. But this was something she had to navigate herself. Mr. Collins stared at Jake, a mix of scrutiny and suspicion flickering across his face. You think you know her? You think you can care for her? You're just a mechanic. What do you understand about her world? Maybe I don't understand at all, Jake replied, his voice low but firm. But I care for her more than you can imagine. I'm not looking for anything except a chance to be with her, to fight for us. Another moment passed, heavy with unyielding tension. The shop felt smaller now, shadows creeping near as if they had a life of their own. Emma's heart raced, matching the rhythmic fists of anxious anticipation banging in her chest. Finally, Mr. Collins sighed, his shoulders drooping as he looked at Emma, really looked at her. You want this so badly? He searched her eyes, looking for any sign of hesitation, any glimmer of doubt, even if it means defying everything I've worked for? Yes, Emma exclaimed, the words bursting forth with a fervor she didn't know she possessed. I want to build my own life, Dad. I want to love, and I want to chase my dreams. If I'm going to fall, I want it to be on my own terms. The silence hung in the air, fragile yet electrifying. Emma felt Jake's warmth seep into her, but she didn't dare look away from her father. She needed him to understand. In that moment, she realized that she wasn't just standing up for Jake. She was standing up for herself. Mr. Collins shook his head slowly, the internal struggle visible across his face. You've always been my little girl, Emma. I've just wanted to protect you, I know, Dad. But you have to trust me. With that, a change shifted in him, like a cloud breaking to reveal the sun. The lines of worry around his eyes softened, and for the first time, she didn't see just the father, but a man who understood she was her own person, even if it terrified him. Okay, he finally uttered, a whisper of pain lacing his voice. Then we'll see. Emma could hardly believe what she heard. The air, once thick with contention, felt buoyant now, lifting her heart while uncertainty danced in the twilight. Thank you, Dad, she heard herself whisper, tears prickling at the edges of her eyes. But right at that moment, just when Emma thought a new chapter was about to begin, her phone buzzed in her pocket, the sound cutting through the emotions. It was a message from her mother, and the panic it ignited in her chest felt like the turn of a new page. What was it about to say? Emma's heart raced as she hesitated to open it, fear creeping in. Would it be the support she longed for, or another barricade to navigate? Emma's hand trembled as she pulled her phone from her pocket. The bright screen blinked to life, displaying a message from her mother. She held her breath, her heart pounding in her ears, a drumbeat of anxiety. For an instant, the world around her faded, the clutter of the shop and the tension with her father slipping away. All that existed was the need to know. She swiped to reveal the message, breath hitching as she read, Emma, we need to talk. You haven't been home in days. I'm worried about you. Call me. The words hung in the air, heavy with a gravity that threatened to pull her down. Emma's stomach twisted into knots. This wasn't the support she had hoped for. It felt more like a summons to battle. I need to take this, she murmured, not waiting for a response. She stepped away from Jake and her father, the simple act of fleeing feeling like a lifeline. Rounding the corner of the shop, she pressed her back against the cool metal of a car, the world muffled and distant. With shaking hands, Emma dialed her mother's number. The ringing echoed in her ears like the tolling of a bell, each tone pulling her closer to a confrontation she dreaded. Finally, her mother picked up. Emma, thank God. Her mother's voice sliced through the nerves, a mixture of worry and an indignant relief. Your father told me he saw you. I'm just so worried. I don't understand why you've disappeared like this. You're risking everything, Emma. A spike of frustration ignited in Emma. Mom, I'm not disappearing. I'm fighting for what I want. I just had a conversation with Dad, and it went better than I expected. Emma, you're too young to make these choices. You don't realize the consequences. Her mother pressed, the protective tone settling heavily over the call. But I do. Emma shot back, her voice sharpening. You're no longer considering what I want. I can't keep living my life for you or Dad. This is my life to shape. Silence fell on the other end, and Emma could almost feel her mother's shock reverberating through the phone. I just don't want you to get hurt, her mother finally replied, softer now, but firm. I know you care, but you have to let me find my own way, Emma replied, a sensation of lightness pooling in her chest. She had known how much she needed to say these things until now. Just come home. We can talk this through. Please. A weight pressed against Emma's chest as doubt crept back in. I can't, Mom. I have to be true to who I am, even if it scares me. Emma, before her mother could respond, Emma hung up, heart racing. She turned away from the car, bringing her gaze back to the shop. Jake was there, watching her with concern etched into his features. I can't go back, she whispered, feeling the sting of tears behind her eyes. Not now. Not until I know I'm doing this for myself. Jake didn't say a word, but the understanding in his eyes spoke volumes. He stepped forward and enveloped her in an embrace, allowing her the solace she so desperately craved. I believe in you, he finally said, his tone warm and steady. Emma drew a deep breath, feeling hope swell alongside her emotions. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she could really be herself, not just a daughter or a student, but Emma. However, the reality of her mother's impending pressure loomed over her like a storm cloud. She had taken a step into her chosen life, but was she ready for the possible fallout? As she buried her face in Jake's shoulder, a new clarity washed over her, intertwined with fresh uncertainty. What would that fallout look like? Emma pulled back, looking into Jake's eyes, searching for answers that she still needed to uncover. "Will you stand by me?" she asked quietly, the strength of her vulnerability hanging in the air. But just as he opened his mouth to respond, a loud crash erupted from the back of the shop, shattering the moment and sending a jolt of panic racing through her veins. What could have caused it? The crash echoed again, a sharp, shattering sound that reverberated through the small shop like a clap of thunder. Emma's heart raced as she instinctively grabbed Jake's arm, her fingers tightening with fear. His eyes flickered between her and the doorway leading to the back of the shop, trying to process what had just happened. "What was that?" he asked, his voice low, barely above a whisper. "I don't know," she replied, her pulse quickening. It sounded like glass breaking. The uncertainty in her voice mirrored the turmoil inside her. She had fought so hard to step into her own world, and now this, whatever this was, felt like a cruel twist of fate. Another crash, this one louder, and Jake glanced back at the doorway with determination. "Stay here. I'll check it out." Emma opened her mouth to protest, but no words came. She was frozen in place, her heart pounding wildly. What if someone was hurt? What if it was something worse? She gave a slight nod, praying the shop was empty. Jake made his way cautiously toward the back, his movements deliberate and purposeful. Emma inched closer, her instincts tugging her forward. As Jake disappeared around the corner, Emma waited, every second stretching into what felt like hours. The shop was eerily silent now, the chaos of the past few moments settling in an unsettling quiet. Suddenly, a voice called out, "I'm fine. I wasn't watching where I was going." It was Jake, his tone edged with a hint of relief, but still laced with confusion. Emma released a breath she didn't realize she was holding. She stepped closer, the uncertainty still gnawing at her. With each step, her heart raced, filled with worry, but also a desperate need to know. Peeking around the corner, she found the back room in disarray. Boxes were strewn across the floor, and Jake was kneeling beside an overturned workbench. "What happened?" she asked, crossing the threshold fully. "I think I knocked this over when I came in," Jake replied, scratching the back of his neck sheepishly. He lifted a framed photo from the floor, glass scattered beneath it. "Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you." As she approached, her eyes fell upon the photo, a smiling family, the warmth of shared moments captured in the frame. "Is this yours?" Jake nodded, holding the frame delicately, careful not to cut himself on the sharp shards of glass. "Yeah, that's my mom, dad, and me when we went to the beach a few years back." The heaviness returned, and Emma felt a pang in her chest. The sweet innocence of the photo contrasted with the weight of their conversation, the realness of their lives colliding in this fragile moment. "I'm sorry about your picture," she murmured, stepping closer to help him gather the fallen remnants. "It's okay. It's just a reminder of a time, well, we had some good days." He glanced up, vulnerability shining in his eyes. "Things change, though. They always do, don't they?" The silence that felt charged, heavy with understanding. Emma thought of her own family, of the uncertainty surrounding their relationships, and the changes ahead. "Yeah, they really do." As they collected the pieces, their fingers brushed together a few times, small sparks igniting in the quiet tension. Emma's heart fluttered. There was something comforting in this shared vulnerability, a bond being formed amid their respective storms. But just as the weight of the moment began to settle, something shifted in the air. A ringing sound cut through the calm, a new alert, and she recognized it instantly. Her own phone vibrating from her pocket. With every ounce of dread pooling inside her, she reached for it, glancing at the screen. The familiar name made her blood run cold. Her mother again. "What now?" she murmured to herself, the dread clawing at her throat. Jake raised an eyebrow, sensing her tension. "Is everything okay?" Emma shook her head, uncertainty weighing her down. "No, not really." And with that, she pressed the button, bracing herself for the fallout she knew was coming. Would confronting this new wave of family pressure push her further from Jake, or pull them closer together? What would her mother say this time? The uncertainty loomed large as she answered the call. But was she ready for what her mother might demand next? Emma hesitated, the screen illuminating her face like a spotlight on a stage. The world around her faded as she held her breath, preparing for the onslaught of her mother's voice. "Emma, I've been trying to reach you." Her mother's sharp tones sliced through the silence, making Emma flinch. "I'm here, Mom," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. She could sense Jake's presence beside her, his eyes keenly focused, offering silent support. "Why haven't you come home yet? We need to talk." The urgency in her mother's voice twisted Emma's stomach. "I can't handle this without you. It's about your father." Emma felt a rush of emotions, confusion mixed with dread. "What do you mean? Is something wrong with Dad? Just come home, please. We need to sort this out." Emma's heart raced. She could hear the crack in her mother's voice, a vulnerability that was seldom displayed. It felt almost foreign. "Mom, I can't just leave. I have things going on here," she argued, her voice rising slightly. "You don't understand. This is important." There was a desperation now, a pull back to a life that was often suffocating. Emma took a step back, grounding herself. Feeling Jake's concerned gaze on her, she realized the moment was slipping away. This was the crossroad between her past and her present. The call dragged her into a world where everything felt heavy, expectations like chains trapping her. "Can I call you back?" she said softly, trying to keep her voice steady. "I need some time." Silence hung on the line before her mother's reply came cool and defeated. "Fine, but don't take too long." The call disconnected, and with it, Emma felt both relief and a sorrow that loomed in the air. Jake shifted closer, assessing her expression. "Are you okay?" The sincerity in his voice soothed something within her, though she wrestled with the tidal wave of emotions crashing over her. "No, not really." He nodded, understanding blooming in his eyes. "You don't have to talk about it, but if you do, I'm here." It was a small gesture, yet it held the weight of reassurance. Emma exhaled slowly, feeling a little of the tension release. She clenched her jaw and looked around, avoiding his gaze. There were so many things left unsaid. "Do you ever feel like you're being pulled in two different directions? I mean, like you have to choose between what you want and what everyone else expects from you?" The question hovered in the air. Jake's piercing gaze locked onto hers, and for a heartbeat, she thought he might understand. "Yeah," he said finally, nodding slowly as if he were weighing each word. "I think everyone feels that way sometimes. Choosing between family and who you truly are." His understanding gave her strength, like holding onto a lifeline. Emma felt liberated by sharing her confusion, even if just a little. But as that hope bloomed, the moment was interrupted by a loud crash outside the shop. They both turned in unison toward the sound, anxiety creeping in again. The doubt, the fear returned like an unwelcome guest at a party. She shot Jake a glance, and they both knew they couldn't ignore it. Without thinking, they stepped outside, the cool air hitting their faces. But as they peered around, the sight that greeted them made Emma's heart race once more. In front of the shop, a small crowd had gathered, peering toward what looked like a car accident that had just unfolded. "Stay back," a voice yelled as silhouettes of emergency responders appeared. The chaos felt palpable, like an electric current surging through the crowd. With her heart pounding, Emma's thoughts raced faster than her feet could carry her. "Is someone hurt?" Jake's hand found hers, holding it tightly. "Let us find out." And as they moved closer to the gathering, doubt flickered in her mind again. Things were getting complicated, and she was no closer to resolving her family crisis. Just when she thought she'd found a moment of connection, the outside world intruded, pulling her back into chaos. Could she really navigate these tangled paths of love, pressure, and tragedy all at once? As they approached the scene, a terrified feeling began to settle deep in her gut. What if the fallout didn't just stop at her family issues? What if something darker awaited just around the corner? As they drew nearer to the scene, the crowd buzzed with murmurs, a mix of speculation and concern. Emma swallowed hard, her heart racing. Jake squeezed her hand tighter, as if to anchor her against the rising tide of fear. She could see the flashing lights reflecting off the faces of anxious onlookers, and the distant wail of sirens made her pulse quicken. "What do we do?" she whispered, her breath hitching in her throat as they strained to see through the throng. "Let us just stand back for a moment," Jake replied, his gaze fixed on the unfolding drama, while his other hand moved to his pocket. A nervous habit she had noticed before. She nodded, grateful for his calm demeanor, but the fear that twisted in her stomach wouldn't settle. The uncertainty of her family troubles was already weighing heavily on her, and this unexpected chaos felt like another burden added to her shoulders. An officer shouted instructions, urging people to clear the way. Emma glimpsed a dark sedan with its front end crumpled against a lamppost. Fragments of shattered glass glinted in the sunlight, scattering like diamonds on the pavement. Her heart sank as she imagined the force of impact that had caused such destruction. "It looks bad," Emma said, her voice barely audible, laced with anguish. "I know, but we can only do so much," Jake said softly, his eyes darting between the responders. "It's out of our hands." Just then, a woman in a red jacket burst through the crowd, her face pale and frantic. Emma's heart lurched. Something about the woman's expression struck a chord within her. The officer moved to block her, but she pushed past him, her voice rising in desperation. "Please, is my daughter okay?" The world around Emma blurred, momentarily drowned out by the woman's heart-wrenching plea. She couldn't help but imagine her own mother, those frantic moments of despair when family was involved. "Mom," Emma breathed, the word hanging heavily in the air, a reminder of her own family's trouble. Jake turned to her, concern etched on his face. "Emma, don't let this consume you. We need to find out what is going on, but we also need to take care of each other." His words pulled her back. For a fleeting second, she allowed herself to lean into his assurance. He was right. But the chaos pulled at her, drawing her thoughts back to her own strained relationship with her mother, the looming shadow of her father's situation. The sirens drew closer, and with every second that passed, the scene felt eerily familiar, a desperate reminder that life could swiftly change. Emma's thoughts swirled. She had spent so much time trying to forge her own path that she couldn't help but question if she would be strong enough to face whatever awaited her at home. Suddenly, a loud gasp echoed from the crowd as paramedics carefully lifted someone onto a stretcher. Emma's breath quickened. They were revealing the truth that shook her deepest fears. "Is that her?" the woman cried, her voice rising above the noise. Emma felt the mother's anguish like an arrow piercing her own heart. Before she could process her thoughts, her instincts kicked in, fueling her legs to move forward. "Jake, we have to help." He looked hesitant, but didn't pull away. "Wait, Emma," but she was already pushing through the crowd, adrenaline pumping through her veins. There was a recognition within the chaos, an undeniable urge to connect, to comfort. And as she reached the front, her eyes locked onto the figure on the stretcher. A girl, perhaps her age, pale with fear mirrored in her wide, fearful eyes. In that moment, it struck Emma. They were entwined by something deeper, something unspoken. "Please, just let her be okay," Emma whispered to herself, praying with every ounce of hope she had left. But just then, an unexpected voice broke the air, sending a jolt through her. "Emma." She turned, her heart racing as she recognized the voice, her mother's voice, calling to her. The riptide from the past crashing once again. How could she face her mother when reality was unraveling all around her? What was she supposed to do now? As the siren blared and chaos swirled, Emma stood frozen between two worlds, their lives intertwined, both uncertain of what lay ahead. Would she risk everything to help a stranger in pain, or would she retreat back into the tangled web of her own life? Emma felt time slow as she turned to face her mother. There stood her mother, framed by the chaos. The wild hair, the worn leather jacket that had seen better days, and eyes wide with worry. It was as if a fog had lifted, bringing clarity amidst the tumult. "Emma, there you are." Her mother gasped, her voice graveled with fear. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Emma's voice trembled, torn between relief and confusion. She had struggled for so long to distance herself from the shadows of her home life. Yet here was the embodiment of her worries standing right in front of her with panic in her eyes. "I came to get you. I heard there was an accident." Her mother's voice cracked as she pointed toward the chaos beyond. "It's your father." "Yes." The weight of her words hung in the air, a swift chill replacing the heat of adrenaline. Emma's heart raced again, this time from a different kind of fear. "What? What do you mean? Is he hurt?" Before her mother could answer, another cry pulled Emma's attention back. The woman in red was still pleading, her cries weaving through the fray. Emma's focus flickered between the urgent need to comfort a stranger and the terrifying uncertainty of her father's health. "Mom," Emma pressed, her voice urgent, "we need to help her first." That girl, but the moment her words left her lips, she noticed the paramedics hastening their efforts, clearly feeling the weight of time slipping away. The girl on the stretcher was barely conscious, her eyes swimming with terror, the very fear reflecting in Emma's own heart. "Stay here," her mother pleaded, but Emma was already moving towards the stretcher, drawn by an invisible thread. Jake was at her side, concern etched on his face. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, squeezing her hand tightly. She nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "We can't just stand by." As they reached the paramedics, Emma felt an undeniable connection to the girl. It went beyond fear. It was a collective pain that bound them in this moment. "Is she going to be okay?" Emma blurted out, desperation lacing her words as she looked over the medic's shoulder. The medic shot her a quick glance, a mixture of sympathy and professionalism on display. "We're doing everything we can," he replied, voice steady but strained. "Please, just do your best." Emma cried out, feeling the strong pull of hope trying to overshadow her fears. In a nearby lull, the crowd's murmurs grew louder. "That's her mother," a voice broke through, sending a ripple of recognition. Emma turned to see the woman in red getting closer again. She looked frantic, her expression pleading for answers, for hope. "Stay back." An officer called, but the woman pushed forward, eyes searching wildly for the girl Emma had just seen. Emma's heart raced anew, not just for the girl, but for her mother's fragile state and the unresolved issues that hung heavily between them. Figuring out how to mend it felt impossible right now. "Mom," she suddenly yelled, her voice rising above the frenzy. "I can't do this alone." Her mother hesitated, visibly torn. The separation between them had felt insurmountable for so long. But here, in this storm of chaos, was the chance for connection, for understanding. "I just want us to be okay," her mother said softly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Those words, simple yet profound, reached deep inside Emma. Could they find a way to face their fears together? Could they mend what felt broken? Just then, the medic called out, "We need all available hands. We're losing her." The urgency snapped Emma back. The girl was slipping, and the woman in red cried out again. Emma felt a surge of determination, but whose life mattered most at this moment? As she glanced between Jake, her mother, and the frantic call of a stranger, a choice loomed before her, heavy with consequence. Would she race forward into the chaos to help someone she didn't know, or would she confront the wreckage of her family ties? Emma took a deep breath. She didn't have to decide alone. But as she stood at the crossroads of connection and chaos, ready to make her choice, the sound of sirens filled the air once more, almost mocking her uncertainty. What would she choose? The chaos of the scene engulfed Emma like an unexpected tide. The sirens screamed, and hurried conversations melted into an indistinguishable murmur. The stakes felt impossibly high, the weight of her decisions heavy on her chest. She could sense the urgency pulsing through Jake, his concern radiating like a beacon of hope. "Emma," Jake said, his voice steady but soft, "we can't just stand here. If you feel you need to help that girl, I'm with you. But you also need to talk to your mom. This could be your moment." His words brought a flicker of clarity, like a lighthouse guiding her through a storm. Emma turned to her mother, who stood just behind her, an unexpected ally amidst the chaos. "Mom," Emma said, her voice shaking but resolute, "I can't ignore this. This girl, she needs help. But there is so much between us that we have to acknowledge. Can we face this fear together?" Her mother's eyes filled with tears, and Emma saw the struggle etched across her mother's face. There was fear, but alongside it, an awakening recognition. "Emma," please, her mother breathed, stepping forward. "I've let my worries cloud our lives. Maybe this is a chance for us to stand together for something bigger." The urgency in her mother's voice cut through the tension, illuminating a shared path forward. As if guided by an unseen force, Emma reached for her mother's hand, squeezing tightly. "Then let us do it together." They turned toward the chaos, Jake trailing closely behind. United in their determination, the three of them surged forward. Emma's heart raced as they approached the medics. The frantic scene folded into her awareness, hands and bodies moving like a well-rehearsed dance, driven by the desperate need to save a life. "Excuse me," Emma called out, her voice rising above the din. The paramedic turned, acknowledging her and the intensity in her eyes. "Is there anything we can do?" Her mother chimed in, her voice filled with sincerity. The medic paused, recognizing their shared urgency. "We need support, someone to call for help and to comfort the family. Can you do that?" Emma nodded enthusiastically, and without hesitating, she ran to the woman in red, who was still trying to inch closer. "Ma'am," Emma called, her heart aching for the woman's pain. "I'm here to help. I'm so sorry for what is happening. Please let us know how we can support you." The woman's eyes brimming with unshed tears met Emma's gaze, and for a brief moment, they connected through a shared understanding of fear. "My daughter," she responded, her voice choked with emotion. "She is all I have. Please, let her be okay." As Emma stood there, her mother and Jake drew closer, ready to embrace this emerging connection. "Your daughter is in good hands," Emma said gently. "We're going to do everything possible to help her." The woman took a breath, sobering slightly. "Thank you," she whispered, her walls of worry beginning to crack. Meanwhile, Jake, ever observant, scanned the area for anyone who might help. He quickly spotted an officer nearby. "Hey, we need to get some officials to inform family members," he called out, efficiently directing the team. Emma's heart swelled, intertwining feelings of fear and determination surging. They weren't just standing by, they were actively participating, shaping their response through love and support. As she watched Jake take charge, Emma turned to her mother, a sudden wave of realization washing over her. "Mom, I think we can be each other's strength. If we can push through these fears together, maybe we can find a way past them toward each other." Her mother nodded slowly, their eyes locking with a new understanding. "I'm scared too, Emma," she admitted, "but I want to try. For you. For both of us." Just then, the sound of the ambulance wheeled into the scene, heightening the palpable energy surrounding them. The atmosphere brimmed with possibility. They were standing shoulder to shoulder, ready to face the storm. "We've got this," Emma murmured, squeezing her mother's hand tighter. At that moment, everything shifted, a fragile barrier giving way to a bloom of connection. In the haze of uncertainty, Emma realized something profoundly beautiful was happening. As the chaos continued around them, they stood united, a mechanic, a mother, a daughter, an unbreakable bond formed through the turmoil. The seconds stretched, and time felt infinite until they heard a distant voice from the paramedics. "She's stable now. We got her." A flicker of joy ignited Emma's heart, and in the whirlwind of emotions swirling, she knew they had faced the storm together and emerged stronger. In a world of unpredictability, they dared to be genuine, reaching past old wounds toward new beginnings. And in that moment, standing with her mother, her friends, warmth coursing through her veins, Emma felt hope, real, tangible hope. She had not only chosen to help the girl in pain, but had pulled her mother along, navigating their weary journey toward understanding and love. As the crowd began to disperse, moving from chaos back to ordinary life, Emma's world expanded. She took a deep breath, knowing they had weathered the storm. She whispered softly, "We can make our story beautiful." Remembering Jake and gazing into her mother's eyes, Emma understood they would support one another and chase their dreams, embracing the messy good they could create together. They would face challenges, but together they could illuminate even the darkest days, bound by love and the promise of forgiveness. And as certainty replaced fear, a new chapter dawned, full of hope, connection, and dreams ready to take flight. Now is your moment. You need to subscribe to the channel right now to not miss our next exclusive stories. Your support is crucial, so leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this inspiration further. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this amazing transformation. Together, we can create a community that uplifts and inspires.